Namaste. Welcome to this new session. So, we are now considering the antarayas because by Ishwar Pranidhana, by Pranava Japa, by Nama Sadhana, by bhakti of any level, it has fruits which are so important for worldly life, mundane life, practical aspects of life, practicality of life, and even paramarthic life, adhyatmic life, spiritual life. And therefore, Ishwar Pranidhan comes everywhere in countless forms. But if you look at the topic here it is coming in the topic of asamprajnata samadhi, or generally samadhi, or more generally yoga. That's why they are called yogantarayas. Now these antarayas, the obstacles which are being mentioned, are no doubt obstacles in the path of yoga, in the path of adhyatma, in the path of paramartha. But it will be noticed that these are all also obstacles for practical minded people, worldly people, mundane people. So these are obstacles everywhere, and of course they have special reference to in yoga dharma. So point to be noted or borne in mind is that these are yogantarayas. And if we have these antarayas, it is also important for us to understand how the same antarayas, to what extent, in what way they would come to yogis on higher hierarchies, such as Adhamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, Uttamadhikari. Say, for instance, the lack of health, ill health, fragile health is an obstacle to mundane man in very worldly activities, the practicality of life. We come across this fact that disease is an obstacle to even such a materialistic life. But then the disease becomes obstacles to one in spiritual path in different ways. It obstructs his pursuit. So also the disease will come as obstacle in higher levels of consciousness, yogis of different levels, sadhakas of different levels, every level, any level, the same obstacles will present themselves in different ways. This is to be noticed. Now, if you want to understand by an example, if I pinch an adult person, it is painful. How much it is painful? What will be the reaction that an adult person is pinched by someone? Then the same pinch, or perhaps very mild pinch, 1/100th of it intensity, to a child, what is the reaction? The child will break in crying. So, it is painful for everyone. A pinch is painful for anyone. But the baby reacts in one way, child will react in another way. Little grown up will react in another way. Nobody says the pinch is comfortable and wonderful. So the pain will come in different ways. The reaction to pain will be different. Similarly, these antarayas, the sorrow that they will create by being obstacles will be different in different uh, levels of consciousness and in different levels of yoga. Because in yoga you will find every level, very, very raw, neophyte to very, very ripe. So the obstacles will be coming in different ways, and the reaction to obstacles also will be different. So while we are going to discuss these antarayas, we must also know that we can consider this, how the same antaraya, how does it work for us? How does it work for someone who is more evolved in consciousness than us? And how it is differently coming to someone of a middle hierarchy, because we have been seeing that the hierarchy is lower hierarchy, middle hierarchy, higher hierarchy. So this thought process must be there in each one of you when you hear this. How this obstacle works on me, how this obstacle would work on someone else. One who is more stronger, one who is more weaker than me. One who is less wiser and more wiser than me. Who is less accomplished in yoga than I am, and then someone who is more accomplished in yoga than I am. How it would work. So this thought process is also important while we are going to discuss these antarayas. Just as Abhyasa Vairagya was, while it was being discussed, we said it works differently at different levels of consciousness. Similarly, it's a kind of suggestion that when we discuss each one of these obstacles, we should not just consider the obstacle with reference to us, but how it would work for someone else, anyone else, everyone else, on different levels of practices, in different levels of pursuit of yoga. So anyway, the sutra 1.30 gives a long list of these antarayas. So the advertence should not be lost that Ishvara Pranidhana will also work for this. As much as Ishvara Pranidhana will work for Asampragnat Samadhi, as that is how the reference is here, we should not lose the advertence on these aspects while we are studying the text. So how these antarayas would work to someone who is Asampragnat caliber yogi, or Sampragnat caliber yogi, or one who is middle hierarchy yogi called Kriya yogi, or one who is Ashtanga yogi. How these antarayas would work, and how it would work on someone who is not yet become yogi, like you and me, how these obstacles would work. So, Ishvara Pranidhana is a measure, is a means working in a multifaceted way for everyone, anyone. I might extend further, not only mankind, but even subhumans. Because the bhakti goes down to even subhumans. We come across bhakti by, say, animals, and we get the example of Gajendra Moksha Prakaranam in Srimad Bhagavatam or Sri Vishnu Puranam. And most of you perhaps know the Gajendra Moksha Prakaranam, that even elephant prayed and got salvation by Ishvara Pranidhana. So animals and birds, they also will be in bhakti, which is called actually prapatti and sharanagati. The prapatti and sharanagati kind of bhakti is for everyone, not just one kind, but any kind of life. Anyway, so the sutra 1.30 mentions the antarayas, yogantarayas. The sutra is vyadhi sthana samshaya pramada alasya avirati bhanti darshana alabdha bhumikatva anavasthitattvani chitta vikshepaha te antaraya. So it is one of the long sutras, one of the few long sutras in Patanjali's text. So this is merely a list of obstacles or antarayas. So the point is, by Ishwar Pranidhana, again coming back to the source of this topic, by Ishwar Pranidhana there would be Paramatma Sakshatkara. If not that, Atma Sakshatkara. If not that, at least Vigna Nivartanam or Vignopaya, Upaya on the Vignas, or Antaraya Abhava, or Antaraya Kshayikaranam, Durbalikaranam. At least they will be weakened. So see how it is a master key. This must be borne in mind, how Ishwar Pranidhana is master key. A kind of bhakti, any kind of bhakti, and you should recall bhakti might be, there may not be bhakti, but even just nama, Bhagwan nama, Bhagwan nama smaranam, or even if you are not able to utter, just smaranam will work. So you should recall smaranam, kirtanam, various kinds of bhaktis. Navavidha bhakti was seen. So the nama, even Bhagwan nama is said to be Taraka nama. So it will really come handy for anyone, everyone. If you can't utter, you can just remember even. So see how concession has come in bhakti, that even if you don't have bhakti, just utter the name. That also will work. So, and that is why these antarayas are getting mentioned. So this is actually a cluster of vignas. This is a cluster of obstacles. And they create vikshepa, according to Sutra. They chitta vikshepaha. They are called chitta vikshepa. They are obstructions to chitta in yogic process. So the list was just now mentioned. So Vyadhi is the first one. So Vyadhi is briefly mentioned as disease, problems of body, problems of mind, disease of body, or even just dis-ease of body, dis-ease of mind. Because you should understand, disease is not disease. Disease is actually dis-ease. And the dis-ease is really a problem. Disease is not a problem. The disease creates dis-ease, and dis-ease literally tells us that it is dis-ease, and nobody wants to be in dis-ease. Everybody wants to be in ease, and disease is dis-ease. So, that is Sharirika pida, Manasika pida. Sharirika, Vyadhi can be Sharirika or Vyadhi can be Manasika. Then Sthana means Akarmanyata, Akarmanyam. A motivation kind of thing. Then comes samshaya. Samshaya is indecisiveness, doubtfulness, or doubt. Uh, so, doubt in the form of either yes or no, possible or not possible. So, this brings a kind of oscillation in the mind, and this oscillation in the mind is obstruction in any pursuit. If you take up a pursuit with a doubt in your mind, you know you are already trying to drive your car with brakes on. So it is anishchayatmakata and ubhayakoti sprugnyana. It touches both the sides, possible, impossible, good may not be good, bad may not be bad, good or bad. So when the mind oscillates, its great obstruction is a hurdle for our process. Pramada, in simple words, is heedlessness, carelessness, carelessness, lack of alerticity. Alasyam means the heaviness in body and mind. Heaviness in body and mind, that is alasya. And therefore, you can understand with laziness, you make nowhere pursuit. Pursuits everywhere ends or everywhere doesn't commence by mere presence of alasya, by mere presence of laziness. So it's a huge kind of obstacle, and you will see that each of the obstacles which have been mentioned and which will be mentioned are really formidable forces. They are formidable foes for one to be really in a particular pursuit or succeed in a pursuit. Then, avirati. In simple words, avirati is a wonderful kind of expression here, but avirati means indriya laulyam. When the senses have craze, when the senses have endless thirst and hunger, then naturally any endeavor is obstructed. Or the laulyam, it's called indriya laulyam, chanchalyam. So when the senses are restless and the senses are craving for their gratification, no effort, endeavor or no effort is successful. So we know how it is an obstacle. In simple words, it is absence of vairagya. Having no thirstlessness or no dispassion is an obstacle anywhere. Then Bhranti Darshana. Bhranti Darshana means our ideas, notions, illusory. When you have illusion in some respect, how will you make endeavor there? Like doubt is an obstruction, illusory ideas, notions are also obstructions. If you have illusion about something, then how will you make a pursuit there? Alabdha bhumikatva means, in simple words, lack of progress. If you do not progress at all in your endeavor, sooner or later, sooner than later also, you will be slowly motivated. You will slowly be withdrawing from such an endeavor. If you don't get expected progress, we do not attain expected progress, that is alabdha bhumikatva. Anavasthitatva means not getting settled in any attainment. The attainment comes. That doesn't mean that it will continue. But suppose attainment slips like sand in your hands, if it slips away, then again you get the motivation, and slowly you are weaned away from endeavor. because you succeed but the success slips away. So that is called anavasthitatva. You do not get established in any plane of success. You everywhere you have slippery. So there is a lot of slippery. So although you progress, you again slip back. So this can happen in life. So in brief, these are the literal meanings of these antarayas. And if you count, these are 9. So Vyasa says Nava Antarayas. He clearly mentions Nava Antarayas. Yoga Antarayas are Nava Antarayas. Nava Antarayas means 9 obstacles. So if you count them, they are 9 in number. So they are Vikshepa in yoga, as much as they are Vikshepa anywhere else. And these Vikshepas are Chitta Vrittis. Now you can't say that Vyadhi is not a Chitta Vritti, Sthana is not Chitta Vritti, Samshaya is not Chitta Vritti. You will see that these are all Chitta Vrittis. So when the Chitta Vrittis are functioning in a mundane gravity, we are all in these antarayas. When the Chitta Vritti is in a Vichita state, that means it is actualization of one of these antarayas or all of these antarayas or few of these antarayas. So our Vichita Chitta is nothing but outer form of antarayas. So Vyasa makes a wonderful mention about this, that these are all Chitta Vrittis. And Chitta Vritti is antagonizer of yoga, because Chitta Vritti Nirodha Yoga. So if you have Chitta Vritti Nirodha, you can't say there is no Chitta, there is yoga but no Chitta Vritti Nirodha. It's not possible. So as long as yoga is not actualized, not actualizing, that means there is Vikshepa. If you are not expecting even reaching your expected success in yoga, that means it is because of obstacles. So we must identify the obstacles. Why is it that we are not getting the expected success? Why is it that we are failing? So when you fail in your endeavor, you should identify pathologically that there are some obstacles here, and these obstacles, you will identify them as Vyadhi, Sthana, Adi. Only these obstacles will be there. The 9 which are mentioned here are only the ones which are creating impediment in your progress. So that's the pathology. Because most of us experience failure, lack of success in our endeavor. And then we try to search the reasons here and there. More often we try to find faults. We say this person is the reason, this person is the cause of my failure, or this situation is cause of my failure. Because of this I have not succeeded. Because of this person and this thing and that thing, I have not succeeded. So usually we try to identify the faults outside. This is human tendency. But we should also turn inside, and then we should identify that there are some reasons subjectivistically within us which are also in the body of cause for our failure. And they will be one of these 9, or 2 of the 9, or 3 of the 9, or 4 of the 9, or 5 of the 9, or 6 of the 9, or 7 of the 9, or 8 of the 9, or all of the 9. So this is pathology of our failure, pathology of our lack of success. So it also gives us some kind of pathological insight to understand why is it that we don't succeed, why is it that we do not succeed to expected degree, and why is it that we fail, why is it that we fail unexpectedly and to an unexpected extent. There is always a cause within us. And these causes, any of these causes, will be out of these 9 antarayas which Patanjali has mentioned. So then it also should be inferred, which Vyasa does, that in case of no vigna at all, no obstacles at all, absolutely no obstacles whatsoever, even iota of any obstacle, that means you are in perfect yoga. You are in samadhi. You are in niruddha chitta bhumi. You can't have a condition that there is no obstacle at all, but you are not in samadhi. As much as you are in samadhi, but the still obstacle is there. So both things are not possible. When you are in samadhi, it is a state you are totally antaraya proof, obstacle proof. Not obstacle proof, you can't be in samadhi. Or when there are no obstacles at all, you are invariably in samadhi. There is no case actually, no condition, which is very interesting kind of denotation here, pointing here, that if you have no obstacle whatsoever, you should be invariably in samadhi. Now this is a wonderful inference, and a lot of thought material can be extracted from this statement. So when there is vigna bhava, if there is abhava of vignas, there would be no pratyakshadi vrittis. There won't be pramanadi vrittis. No vritti would be in your mind if you have no antaraya whatsoever, not even a microscopic trace of vyadi, sthana, samshaya, pramada, alasya, avirati, bhranti, darshana, anabhuvikatva, anavasthitatva. That means you are in samadhi. You should be in samadhi. Invariably you are in samadhi. So we can understand the relationship between the antaraya bhava and samadhi. Antaraya bhava absolute itself is samadhi. Absence of samadhi means antaraya bhava. Not antaraya abhava, but antaraya bhava. That means presence of antarayas. In case if you are not in samadhi, now none of us are in samadhi. That means the one of these antarayas or all of these antarayas or whatever few of these antarayas are definitely operative. If you are not in samadhi, the cause is you have antaraya. So if you are not in samadhi, you have chitta vritti. This is understood. If you are not in samadhi, you have chitta vritti. If you don't have asamprajñat samadhi, you have some kind of chitta vritti, either klishta or aklishta. If you are in samprajñat samadhi, you don't have klishta vritti, but you have a aklishta vritti, one aklishta vritti. So that is what one can easily understand. But here we have to understand that if you are in samadhi, there is no antaraya at all. If you are not in samadhi, there is always an antaraya. No pathology will give you trace of your antaraya, but you should be sure that if I am not in samadhi, I am caught by antarayas. I am under the grip of antarayas. Whenever you are not in yoga, you should know that you are under the grip of obstacles. You are arrested by obstacles. You are in the shackles of obstacles. So this kind of wonderful inference has come in Vyasa's commentary. So now let's try to understand the first of the antarayas, which is vyadhi, and generally we understand them as diseases. And you know the diseases from ulcer to cancer, stomachache to headache to sprains and catches even. But Vyasa starts putting it in more forensic language. So Vyasa says, Dhatu rasa karana vaishamyam. What is Vyadhi? Vyadhi means Dhatu rasa karana vaishamyam. So this is more technical definition. So dhatus, there are sapta dhatus in our body. Our body is made up of sapta dhatus or tridoshas, vata pitta kapha. So any imbalance in vata pitta kapha itself is dhatu, is vyadhi. This is the definition of disease which you get in Ayurvedic wisdom. Then dhatu vaishamyam, imbalance in dhatus, vata pitta kapha, and then tvak charma mansa hridaya asti meda vajjadi, 7 dhatus which are mentioned in Ayurveda. Any imbalance in those body matters, then that is a disease. Then rasa vaishamyam. Rasa vaishamyam means the body is a chemical structure, and this chemistry is stimulated by bhojana panadi, by what you eat and what you drink, the liquid food, solid food, etc. So that's whatever food we eat, it starts stimulating the body chemistry. So any imbalance there is disease condition. So disease means you don't have to wait for a condition from ulcer to cancer, or the diseases that you get in book of medical science, which tells you about diseases, various diseases, their symptoms, their remedies, etc. So you may not be having a disease of that kind, but any imbalance within you in the rasa, sharira rasa, substances in the body, any imbalance itself is vyadhi. Then karana vaishamyam. Karana means the instruments. The body is made up of so many organs. And though all those organs are working and they are keeping our physiology on, psychology on. So those are all instruments through which our embodiment works. Our physical embodiment, physical aspects of embodiment, psychomental aspects of embodiment, they all work. So karana. Or any defect in your karanas. Karanas mean indriyas. So there are indriyas, jnanendriyas, karmendriyas, sharirendriyas, pachanendriyas, shvasanendriyas, jananendriyas, visargendriyas. So the body is complex of indriyas. They are called karana. Indriyas is called karana. So any imbalance in those organs is also diseased condition. Imbalance in 5 cognitive organs, imbalance in 5 cognitive organs, imbalance in internal 3 mental organs, imbalance in any of the organs of physiology, anatomy physiology. So any imbalance in any organ, liver not functioning well, liver not functioning properly, it's a disease. It's a disease. And it's an obstacle. Liver, stomach, colon, bladder, spleen, pancreas, intestines, duodenum, lungs not working properly, those are all karanas. So any imbalance there is mentioned as disease. So that's the definition of vyadhi. So precise, concise definition. Dhatu, rasa, karana, vaishamyam. Vyadhi means dhatu, rasa, karanam, vaishamyam. Vaishamyam means imbalance. So Vyasa gives that more technical meaning. And then Vyasa comes to mention about the Styanam. What is the Styanam? The Styanam is a lack of motivation in very chitta. Lack of motivation to be in yoga, to be doing yoga. So any motivation in the chitta, akarmanya, that akarmanya is sthana. You know why I am laying a stress here? Because you have mention of sthana and then alasya. Both have come. What you in English is rendered as languor and then laziness. So many times one is not clear about the two. So the sthana that is mentioned here is the laziness in chitta or mind. The mind is having laziness, is to be understood as styanam. And then samshaya, according to Vyasa, your notion, idea, where it touches both the sides of probable realities. Because the probability can be yes or no. So if your psyche and mind is touching both the realities, yes and no both. Yes, it is this, and no, it is not this. Then you are caught in the oscillation of the mind. So that is samshaya. So that means lack of surety. If you are not sure about what is this and what is that, then your endeavor towards that or this is going to be shaky, is going to be oscillating. So that kind of oscillating mind is called samshaya. Because samshaya has lots of meanings and lots of depths. Doubt, the word in English. So here, as Yogantaraya, he specifically mentions it is reaching both sides of possibilities and taking both kinds of possibilities and then making an endeavor. How will you succeed? Yes, I am going to do this because I will succeed or I may fail, or I may succeed and I may fail. I will success or I may fail. Then your motivation is not sufficiently empowered, and therefore there will be lots of breaks, lots of pulls, and that is what Vyasa mentions here when it is yogantaraya. Otherwise, the doubt, how it can work in your life, how it can devastate your life, how it can mismanage your life. So the doubt has various depths, and we will go into it when we really try to go into details of each of the antaraya. Pramada means not paying sufficient attention or heed to yoga sadhanas, samadhi sadhanas, or anusthana. So not really taking care, lack of alerticity, lack of intent, so lack of heed. That means carelessness, callousness, casual approach. This is what is circumscribed in pramada. So many times our approach to yoga is very casual. Now you can't expect success there. Or you are callous about your pursuits in yoga, or you are careless. Then of course the pursuit in yoga won't succeed. It would be obstacle. Then comes the alasya. So alasya is both in body and mind, the heaviness, a motivation in body as well as mind. While the sthana, the body doesn't have laziness. So therefore, to understand difference between sthanam and alasya, see, there are some who have sthana. They are only lazy to take up yogic practices, but they are prepared to take up any other practice. For any other practice, they are alert and they are empowered, they are motivated. But for yoga, there is a motivation in mind. So sthana is so chaitika. Alasya is both in body as well as in chitta, body as well as in mind. So the torpidity, dullness in body and mind both. Now in sthana, there is no torpidity. It's only for yoga, there is lack of motivation. And that's why yogic pursuits are postponed. Oh, let me try tomorrow. Let me try later. I will do later. But then if you are doing later, that means what are you going to do now? You are going to do something now. While if you are having alasya, you will not do anything. You will get to your bed and lie down on the bed and do nothing. So alasya is that torpidity both in body and mind. And sthana is not torpidity in mind, it is lack of motivation, tendency to postpone your yoga to a deferred time. So this happens, that is sthanam. So that is only chitta, a motivation in chitta. Here, torpidity or inertia in body, mind and the whole embodiment. That's the alasya. Then avirati. Avirati is a very interesting word. The basic word is rati. And then there is a prefix, virati. And then there is prefix to virati itself. So rati becomes with a prefix virati, avirati. Rati means sensuality, enjoyability, tendency to enjoy, tendency to make merry, tendency to go for gratification, sensory gratification. That's called rati. So that is absence of vairagya. You see that there is absence of vairagya. That's why you go for sensory gratification and you honor the craze of your senses. You nod, you okay, craze of senses, calls of senses, and you go for gratification. That is rati. Now virati means vairagya. Virati means vairagya. And avirati therefore means dwindling in vairagya, not absence of vairagya. So rati is absence of vairagya, virati is having vairagya, avirati is dwindling of vairagya. So reformation, dwindling, moderation, temperation, dwindling, that is avirati. So he doesn't just say avairagya, he says avirati. That means you have attained some reformation, but that slips away. That is avirati. Now this happens how? By encountering objects of senses. So when you encounter objects of senses, then the mind is got in the grips of vasanas. Then you start developing spruha, trushna for the objects. You start developing thirst for the object. So lalasa, spruha, which bubbles up when you are facing the sensory objects, that is avirati. You have reformed, but then they give away. Then Bhranti Darshanam is Viparita Jnanam. In your pursuit of yoga, you have some illusions. Now, when you get illusions, they will really create an obstacle. They will be slowing down your process, or they will be misleading your very process. They will be misleading you, or they will be slowing down your movement towards your endeavor in yoga. So that is Bhranti Darshana. It is because of perversion, illusion in the field of yoga, in the realm of yoga. And therefore, we should be dreaded of any illusions, misconceptions. So these misconceptions, when they get proved as misconceptions, then you know what happens to your endeavor. Then comes Alabdha Bhumikatva. Alabdha Bhumikatva means lack of progress, not reaching a level that you expect or that you want to reach in particular time. If you don't reach, that means you are not progressing. So not to progress is Alabdha Bhumikatva. And Anavasti Tattva means to regress. So understand, not to progress is an obstruction, and to regress is also obstructions, and both are being mentioned. So lack of progression and regression. Lack of progress doesn't mean that you have regressed. Regression is another thing. So these are the obstacles which Vyasa has mentioned. Now let's try to go more profoundly or greater details to Vyadhi. But we will do that next time. Namaskar, all of you.